What's up, everybody? Chris Lavoie here for another episode of the Partnership Mastermind podcast. Today's guest is someone I've wanted to have on the show for quite some time because she's actually done the one thing that so many people talk about doing. Jennifer Rima is the director of partnerships at Apollo.io, and she's built their entire partner ecosystem from scratch as their literal team of one to start, now into one of the most well-run, scaled partner programs in SaaS today. Apollo is now worth well north of 150 million in revenue, and partnerships is a seriously bona fide revenue engine there. Jennifer has built affiliate, agency, tech, and startup ecosystem programs all inside one operating model, and she's done it with process, automation, and a ton of discipline. Cool. Jennifer, welcome to the show. Super pumped to have you with us.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for inviting me.
Amazing. Cool. Well, look, we always start up with a warm-up just to let guests kind of get into the flow of the conversation and give our audience a chance to get to know you better. So just 5 quick hitting questions. The first thing that comes to your mind. You ready for that?
Ready.
Cool. We'll start with a practical one. What's the scrappiest thing you remember doing in the first 90 days building Apollo's partner program?
I was going on LinkedIn and sending one-off messages to partners that I would have loved to have joined our partner program. It was quite time consuming. I was building lists in Google Sheets and then reaching out to them directly. Definitely wouldn't advise that if you're trying to reach out to a ton of different partners, but it was good for us to identify who the right partners were.
I love that. Well, that's certainly scrappy. I'm sure nowadays the situation is flipped now. Apollo is a big brand. I'm sure you're the one getting inundated with a lot of partner applications. Real quick, because a lot of our audience are partner manager ICs who do have to do the outbounding and partner acquisition roles. Like what's the number one tip you would give them? Meaning, I'm sure people hit you up on DMs on LinkedIn all the time for this exact thing. Like, hey, Jennifer, we want to partner with Apollo. Like, what are the elements of stellar copy that you're like, you know what? I've got to respond to that one because they took their time. So like, what tips can you give to the outbound copywriters of the world? Because Lord knows they need some coaching.
Well, Apollo is known for outbound, so I should know this. I think it's less of like the copy, but touching multiple channels. So I'm big on like multi-step outreach. So adding people on LinkedIn, also reaching out to them on LinkedIn, emailing them. I think it's when I get an email plus I get a message on LinkedIn and I've connected with someone on LinkedIn, I'm more likely to reply. It's like, hey, I reached out to you through email. I think most importantly is including what's in it for the partner and trying to keep it short and sweet. I've seen a lot of emails that are very lengthy and just looking at it is
doesn't
too
work.
time consuming. So yeah, keep it short and sweet, include what's in it for the partner and don't just leverage email.
Well, that's great. But look, if anyone's trying to partner with Apollo, you just got a cheat sheet from the leader of the program of how to get in her inbox. The simplest way I was taught from all my mentors is like, look, would you respond to this email yourself? Right. And the key is when you write it, don't ask yourself that question then. Take a 24-hour break, come back to the copy, and typically you're going to be like, ooh, that's terrible. I would never respond to that. So would you respond to it? If no, go back to the drawing board. Amazing. Cool. Second quick hitting question for you. Just saw your post the other day. You're a power user of granola. Tell us about that and how does it actually fit into your day-to-day?
It cracks me up. My husband always says I have way too many meetings, and my granola crunch told me that I'm like in their 1% of users. I've used granola maybe for a year now, and the reason why I love granola is it doesn't enter into your meetings. It doesn't show as a recorder. It just simply takes notes for you. So it allows me to be super present in a 30-minute meeting. I think when you're trying to take notes and then recapping what you need to do after the meeting, you're not actually like grasping what's being said in the meeting. So their interface is just super clean. It pops up on your screen, taking the notes. And it also just like, I can use the transcripts and put them into ChatGPT and say like, what are important next steps? So yeah, it's been phenomenal. I really like between Apollo and granola, definitely my 2 favorite tools, and granola is free. So recommend anyone to test it out.
I love that. I love it all.
I should get from granola, but I love their products. They're based out of the UK and just they have a really cool team as well.
I love that. As I was just about to say, I'm like, look, like we are not paid affiliates of granola, but granola, I'll reach out to you so you can leverage this. Look, Apollo is one of my favorite tools, certainly for running my business. I definitely need to get in granola. I like the minimally invasive element of it. It's like not just another recorder, but you get all the upside without the downside. Cool. Next question for you. This is kind of more big picture. What's the most valuable lesson that you can think of that you've learned about partnerships outside of SaaS and tech? Meaning like other elements of your life. Could be relationships, could be hobbies, could be just like traveling. Like, what are some things you've learned outside of tech that have actually helped you in tech and certainly in partnerships?
Yeah, I think just like a true partnership is when there's a win-win for both sides. And I think, yeah, I just always think about that when in my relationships of just like, how do I give and not just receive? So I think that goes a long way. And I also think, and I just realized this, like when I joined Apollo, I was constantly thinking about how can I get a ton of partners? And I truly think like quality over quantity. And that's in life. Like I'd rather have 5 friends
100%.
than 15. And it took me a while to learn that. So, yeah, it's like, I'm okay with us having 100 partners who are solid versus, having 1,000. And again, I take faults. I definitely did that at the beginning. But I would recommend the same for anyone in partnerships.
Yeah, love that. I appreciate the vulnerability. We'll certainly talk a little bit later on in today's conversation about kind of some of those early pitfalls that were kind of pivotal in how you scaled. But I totally agree. I think quality over quantity is probably where I would go as well. I don't know if I have 15 friends, so maybe that analogy doesn't apply to me. Maybe 5 is good, but I totally agree. Like, especially in partnerships, I believe that who you decide to partner with and like how many people you try to partner with, if I know those two things, I basically can tell you everything I need to know about a partner program, right? Because if you're lazy in how you define ideal partner profile and you try to work with everybody, you're going to burn through your resources and you're never going to go deep enough on a given partnership. But I really resonate with that good one. Sweet. Second last one, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. What's one habit you have protected ruthlessly, no matter how busy your role has got? Because based on your granola, you're a really busy woman. So what's one habit you protect no matter what?
Everyone is busy. I think this is personal for me. I have a 2.5-year-old, and the mornings are for him and I. And yeah, I drop him off every morning, and I do not take calls. It's very rare that I would take a call before 9 a.m. Like I'm not on my laptop until 9 a.m. Because I don't get that much time with him before dropping him off at daycare. So that's really important to me.
I love that. Well, we appreciate you sharing that. As a first-time parent of a 7.5-month-old daughter, I can vouch for that. Trying to build a business, I'm working all the time, but like the mornings, walk with the family, with their dog, make breakfast together. Then I go to work. I wouldn't trade that into the world. So definitely appreciate you sharing that. Sweet. All right, last one. And we always ask this one. If you weren't in partnerships, what would Jennifer Rima be doing? Right? Just don't set limits. Don't worry about money. You could literally be doing anything. What would it be?
I definitely would love to do this when I'm a bit older, but I love the travel industry and I love boutique hotels. I used to work in the travel industry, and my husband is Lebanese and I love going to Lebanon, and I would love to start my own boutique hotel. Hospitality is so interesting to me, and boutique hotels, you get like a special touch of personalization. And when I travel, I love staying in boutique hotels. So that is my goal. And I think partnerships and relationships I would still leverage that.
100%.
But yeah, that is my dream. So maybe I'll do it one day. We can look back on this podcast, Chris, and I'll feel proud of saying that I actually did it. So that's something I would do.
Into existence.
I would not be in tech whatsoever. I would be offline, and hopefully running a charming boutique hotel.
Look, as someone who absolutely loves to travel, and my wife is obsessed with boutique hotels. We were just in London. I'll definitely hit you up, right? So I'll keep in touch, because if you open up one, I'm certainly gonna hit it up.
Deal.
Cool. Well, I think that last one was actually a good segue. So we're done our Fast Five. Now we're getting into the meat potatoes of it all. So I always start with origin stories. So we're calling this one From Dubai to Data, right? So you didn't actually plan to go into partnerships, which I think a lot of people can relate to. Right. So I'd love to start by you taking us back to that moment in Dubai. You're early in your career, working in BD. A founder basically taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you should run partnerships. Right. What made you say yes when you weren't even totally sure what partnerships meant yet?
Yeah, I moved to Dubai. I did my master's and I joined a fintech startup, and I was doing sales. And there was a founder and he reached out to me, and he had an online travel platform. And I was living in Dubai. It's a hub and you get to travel all the time. So I was like, this is super interesting. And so he was like, look, you seem to be good at building relationships. Just come try it out. And honestly, it was the best decision ever, because I loved being in the travel industry and starting partnerships. So I think just I liked it because it wasn't as not ruthless as sales, but it attracted me because he was like, oh, well, you actually get to build relationships with visa and tourism boards. And a part of me was like, oh, I'd love to go partner with a tourism board and have them, treat me to a trip in their country. So I think it being in the travel industry was more attractive. And I'm so happy. I was there for over 4 years, and I got to build out the team. So yeah, it was a good decision that I made. I was young and I was like, I don't have anything else to lose. And so I just went with it.
I love that. I love that. I love what you said about kind of some of the reasons you love partnerships, and say in comparison to sales, not as ruthless, but you still get that like strategic BD. And both of us, are heavily in the tech partnerships game. I think I love that even more just because you get to touch products. So there's, from a brain perspective, you're challenged. So the next question is, you build partnerships across, as you said, travel, fintech, banking, and now obviously like SaaS. Looking back, I'm curious, what did cross-industry and international experience give you that perhaps a straight line traditional SaaS career wouldn't have given you? So for instance, how do you join your first SaaS company as a BDR, then AE, and then maybe get into partnerships in one industry versus what you have, which is cross-industry and international experience? Like, how do you think that's shaped you and helped you be as successful as you've clearly become?
I definitely think like working with different cultures had the biggest impact, just because you understand the different ways of working with people. I mean, I was working in the Middle East, even though Dubai is very, very modern, like you're still working with people from the region, and you need to understand like how to communicate with them. And it's also a different level of empathy. And so communication is something that I've learned regardless of if I'm in SaaS or travel or fintech. Like communication is everything. And now Apollo, like we have such a diverse team. It wasn't the same as in Dubai. Like in Dubai, 80% of the people that I was working with were expats. They're from all over the world. So I think just like communication, I think is so important in partnerships, and relationship building. And that was the biggest, just learning experience for me. So not that I can say, partnerships in different industries, I learned a lot. It was cool to see different types of partners that you're working with. I think the biggest experience I gained was definitely working with different cultures.
Yeah, I love that. Having worked at some international companies myself, that's the best part of it all. Like, the more you're able to like open your aperture, unlock these diverse perspectives, like literally how people think, how they talk, like the more you can expose and immerse yourself in those experiences. I think that's a cheat code for career acceleration, which I love. Okay, cool. So that's a good starting point in your origin story. Now we're going to fast forward, go in order. So now you go from that background to being handed the keys at Apollo to build everything from zero. So when you first joined Apollo, help us understand, like, what did build the partner program as a mandate actually mean in reality on day one? Like literally, what were you thinking about on the earliest of days, if you can remember?
I mean, I actually used Apollo before joining. So right when I came in, I was kind of thrown in the fire, which you are at any high growth company. But it was like defining clearly what are the partner programs we want to have. And I think like spending time on that was great because you're then not wasting time trying to come up with bespoke partnerships to any partner that you're reaching out to. So it's like, hey, these are the 4 partner programs that we have. The lowest hanging fruit was the affiliate program because Apollo has such a big customer base and we knew a lot of people wanted to refer us. So it was like, okay, we know that's something we want to focus on. We also had integrations that we built. How could we expand those? Apollo is really core for startups. And so we knew we wanted to partner with like VCs and accelerators. So those 3 were obvious. The agency program, we knew that we had agencies using the platform. That's where we're investing a lot today, which I'm excited to chat through. But so the biggest thing, like when I joined, was defining what the 4 partner programs were and who our ideal partners were. And again, I was one person, so I had, some time to really spend on that. And I'm glad we did really identify what the partner programs were, because I think that helped us scale quickly, and it helped me build out our team.
That's a great starting point. We have a lot of folks who listen to this podcast who are in that exact situation right now, where they're like, great new job, big new title, it's super exciting, but then the pressure is immediately on, right? And you what you just described, you made it sound so simple because you're at that caliber of like, yeah, designing these 4 different partner types, but like that is exhausting and daunting, having done it myself. So my next question for you, Jennifer, is, okay, great. You have on paper, the types of partners you want to work with. It sounds like you're big on like ideal partner profile and like being intentional there. But like as a team of one, like you can't possibly be, a partner manager for each of those 4 partner types and then go 100%. So like literally speaking, how did you decide which bets to place in a given week? And how did you decide how to prioritize? Because you can't build all of those 4 pillars all at once. So just from a sequencing perspective, I'll say it that way. How did you kind of think about building these things kind of in parallel?
Yeah. And I'm definitely not like a expert in all of the programs, but where I knew that, and at that time, my team was under RevOps. It's interesting because we've switched teams, and
That's interesting.
Where we're at today. But I knew that we needed to show the partner programs driving revenue. And so technology takes time, like building integrations takes a lot of time, and it takes time to like prove out the metrics there. So where I spent a lot of my time was the affiliate program. And luckily, like that was a good investment because again, we knew that there were a lot of people that were already talking about Apollo. So yes, I make it sound like it was easy to define what the programs were, but I did so much research. Like I was really invested in, okay, what are our competitors doing that are more established with their partner programs? What are other SaaS companies doing that may be in a different vertical that they have successful partner programs? So I researched a lot. I like spent a lot of time just like working in my little silo and trying to understand what others are doing. That helped. But we already had a PRM in place. We just weren't leveraging. So a partner relationship management tool that we had, which was Partner Stack, that we just weren't leveraging because no one was in seat. So I was like, okay, let's focus on this. I can track everything through Partner Stack. I could do this on my own, being super scrappy. And so, yeah, when I talk to other people in partnerships, I say, hey, you can't do it all. Like you need to focus on one thing to start. And so I built out with our, marketing team landing pages to show what the programs were, but where I spent my day-to-day time was in the affiliate program.
I love that. I think that's a really powerful lesson for anyone listening who is either in the midst of or soon will be in the midst of building a partner program. Candidly, I wish I had this podcast available when I got my first head of partnerships job, because I made this critical mistake of trying to build all of these at once. I had a couple headcount. I was trying to go 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then I was reporting to our CEO, and we were in person together, and he took me for a walk. He's like, listen, Chris, like you're doing this good. He's like, but can I just give you some very blunt feedback? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you're trying to do too much, right? You're trying to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're saying yes to too many things. I need you to say no to more things. And that was a big wake up call. So I wish I had this feedback from you then, Jennifer, because I did make that mistake personally. And it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? Like once you start communicating to the market, hey, we're partnering with tech and agency and affiliate, and you have headcount, like you can't just decide to close up shop, right? Like you can't unwind that easily. Yeah. So I think the key lesson here is take your time, slow is steady and steady is fast. And if you nail one partner type, say affiliates, A, you're getting momentum much faster, but B, you're literally developing the playbook that you can then replicate for the second partner type, and then the third partner type, and then so on. Does that resonate with you, Jennifer?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard because a lot of partnership leaders get so much pressure to, do many things at once. To your point, Chris, you have to say no, and there's only so much time in a day. And especially if you're one person, you have to push back and say I can't do this all, but if you want to see revenue, I can see it through this one partner program. And I think it all comes down to revenue at the end of the day. So
Exactly. Anyone at Leadership Apollo listen to this, you're like, that's our girl. Revenue, revenue, revenue. So we love
Now,
that.
now my team's under the revenue org, so it
Exactly.
fits nicely.
Exactly. Last question on this segment before we get into some more tactical stuff. We're big on like accountability and vulnerability on the show because I think that's what resonates most with our audience. So you've been honest about like an early mistake, which was treating partnerships too much like sales and being too transactional. Can you walk us back? Like, what was that moment for you, and how did that force a mindset shift that ultimately took you to a better place?
Well, I'm seeing it a lot now because we're investing in our solutions partner program where we have a ton of great agencies who are implementing Apollo for their customers. And, I always thought it was just, hey, they want a revenue share. And that's not what they want. I think it's like, it took a while to understand that because we had to listen to these partners. And again, this is very different than the affiliate program. Affiliates, like, they want money. But
Very,
it's a very
yeah,
different motion than, working
yeah.
with agencies. And so, yeah, now we're investing a lot in agencies, and I'm constantly like trying to say, hey, they will send us referrals, but we need to be sending them customers. Like, they want to do onboarding for us. They want co-marketing. Like, there's so much more. And so, again, we didn't focus on agencies, but I noticed at the beginning when I was just one person focusing on the affiliate program that we had a ton of agencies in the affiliate program. And they were asking like, hey, don't treat us like an affiliate. We don't want to share a referral link. So it took time for me to say, oh, well, we need a separate group for these agencies. And now that we're investing a lot in agencies, it's truly not just about
Yep.
commission. It's about
Yep.
so much more. And so that's another really big learning. Like, I hadn't worked with agencies, in my previous roles. And so, that's been interesting.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you sharing that. I think a couple things there. I think one of the earlier comments you made, like, look, we're humans, we face pressures, we're all on like intense monthly or quarterly quota cycles. So like our compensation, our family's livelihood, it rides on our performance. So it's easy to feel pressured into like this like go, 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 which can show up as like transactional and not partner friendly. So we'll give ourselves some slack there. But to Jennifer's point, like, it's okay if you make those mistakes early, but you have to be listening and asking the right questions. And the simplest way to do is ask for feedback from your partners. Like, hey, like, pulse check. We've been working together for 3 months. Relative to your other top performing partners, like, how are we stacking up? Like, where can we be better? And if the partner trusts you, they'd be like, hey, look, Jennifer, like, to be honest, I feel like it's been a little bit cold and transactional, not really like reciprocal. So if we can work on that, then I think we can get to a better place. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback from your partners. I think that's one key step. And then the second piece of that is when you're able to start thinking about reciprocity differently and thinking about your partners like your customers, I think that is an easy flip of the switch as well. It's like, okay, you know what? It's not just about me getting value from them. Why would they care to keep working with me if I can't reciprocate? And the last thing I'll say, and I'm curious if you've seen this as well, Jennifer, I found it difficult for AEs in particular, and even BDRs that I've hired into partner manager type roles. I found that to be a tough transition for them to like break away from this like very sequential linear sales cycle, so to speak. Right? Yeah. They're like, wait, like this partnership isn't transactional, and like I have to like play the long game. So I'm just curious if you've ever hired or like been exposed to like, ex AEs now in partnership roles, if that's been a tough transition for them.
Yeah, I mean, I have several people on our team who were part of sales before, and our goals we still have revenue goals. So there is that like transactional bit. I think, and all of the people who have joined from sales, they've been so receptive to learning. Obviously some have gone through, the Partnerships Mastermind courses, and that's helped a lot as well. And so I think a lot of people in partnerships came from sales. So there's always going to be that transition. I think to answer your question, yes, like it takes time. But my team, luckily, they've all been so receptive, and they have so many conversations with partners that they're learning on calls with them of like, okay, I can't treat this like a sales call. Even though it's still a little bit transactional, but it's really about building a long-term relationship. I think that's the big differentiator. It's not a sales deal where you close them and move on. It's like, how do you actually like build something together? And that's the biggest learning for anyone coming from sales to partnerships.
I love that. I think that's a great approach. I'm a big fan of playing the long game, and it's easier for us to say in more senior experience roles, but anyone listening who's more earlier in your career, like it really does pay to play the long game and zoom out a bit. You might do something aggressive now that might get you the deal now, but if you're more patient and more value oriented, you might get 10 deals next quarter, right? So it's like, I know it's a trade-off. I know you got quotas to hit, but like playing the long game, make sure you're delivering value will pay off. Cool. So now we've got your origin story. We've got your starting point at Apollo. We're going to continue the journey. We're going from Scrappy to scalable, right? Process and automation, which I know is something that's in your love language. So you've said something that I think is totally true, which is like, you don't scale partnerships by brute force. You scale it by process. So let's now talk about that. Curious, as things started to work and you're proving things like the affiliate channel and then other channels can work as well, do you remember like a first turning point where you're like, okay, I need to actually implement some actual systems here, like some sense of automation or some standardized processes that we will execute against repeatedly as you were trying to like really scale things? Could have been when first headcount started to join or first big partner motions were starting to scale. Just the first thing that comes to mind when I say, hey, Jennifer, what did the scaling phase look like? Just can you walk us back to what that might have looked like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm top of my mind. I'm thinking of when we really started to work with sales to pass them opportunities. When we noticed with the affiliate program, because Apollo has a self-serve motion. And so with the affiliate program, we weren't really working with sales that much. And even with the startup ecosystem, a lot of those startups were just self-serve purchasing Apollo. When we started working more with technology partners and agencies, they had larger deals where we needed to pass those to sales. So a partner stack like has helped a lot with building a scalable process. Any PRM is going to do that. And so luckily we had that investment when I joined and I was able to leverage that. So that helped a lot. But it was like, how can we make sure when we send opportunities over to our sales team, like they're working them correctly and we're able to share the feedback from those calls over with our partners. And so now that our team is a bit bigger, we have more dedicated one-on-one relationships with our partnership managers and then our sales team. And so the process is, hey, we get this op, we can help you book a meeting with this prospect. You then have that meeting with the prospect and then, you work the deal as normal. And so that was a process that we had in place that helped us really build the foundation for the agency program, which is mostly like sending qualified opportunities over to our sales team.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a good topic where we're talking about the critical baton handoff between partner source leads over to AEs. Not all partner source leads will get worked, right? Maybe they're smaller ACVs. You have self-serve affiliates, no problem. But a lot of us working in the co-sell and referral space, we do have that responsibility ownership of partner manager responsible for nurturing relationships with partners to unlock qualified source deals. And then you hand it off to the AEs. May sound trivial, but what I can say, Jennifer, in my role, having looked into hundreds of B2B SaaS partner programs, it's shocking to me how few partner programs nail that handoff process, right? Like think about the Olympic relay, right? If you have a clunky handoff, you for sure lose the race or you're disqualified. The stakes aren't maybe as intense, right? In the AE, like partner manager AE handoff, but they're kind of close, right? Like every unoptimized element of how you do a handoff will, if you compound that across every partner manager and AE and every lead that comes in, you'll have massive revenue leak. So any partner leader listening right now or any IC listening right now, chances are you could have a huge improvement on your lead to handoff process, meaning lead comes in. How quickly do you follow up that lead? How do you qualify them? How do you make sure it's worth passing to the AE? What does that literal process look like where the AE knows, hey, you just got handed a partnership lead. Here's all the details. Here's what the partnership team has provided you information-wise. Here's how the partner can stay involved and nurture this down the funnel. So anyways, you got me on a hot topic because that's near and dear to my heart. So Jennifer, real quick.
Don't get me wrong though, Chris. Like we've had to change this process because at the beginning we're relying just on the reps to reach directly out to the prospect. And we saw that a lot of our leads were not getting the love they deserved. And so then my team was like, okay, we will reach out to the prospect for you, kind of like a BDR would. and
Yeah,
get that meeting set. And so don't get me wrong, like we've had to iterate along the way. It hasn't been perfect, but I think now it's a much better process. So yes.
totally fair. We appreciate that. And so last question on this segment before we get into just building up more and more partnership motions is, looking back, is there one process that perhaps you wish you had built earlier than you did if you could go back in time? And just for me, real quick, as you think, I wish I had introduced a more seamless lead submission process for our partners. Like we didn't have a PRM for the longest time. We were relying too heavily on like email introductions, which aren't perfect and they're not trackable. So eventually I got smart, started building these like custom landing pages that were like had embedded like HubSpot forms, made it so beautifully easy to manage. So I wish I'd introduced that process earlier. So that's for me. But just curious, is there one process you're like, you know what, if I could go back, I probably would have built that earlier than I actually did?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, maybe it's something that we haven't even done yet that I like
Fair.
wish we would have done. So now we're investing a lot in our integrations and leveraging Crossbeam. And I feel like everyone in partnerships always talks about Crossbeam. And it's something that, we are paying customer at Crossbeam and we love the tool. I just think we need to create a process. And it's something I'd love to learn is how can we leverage Crossbeam and co-sell properly with our integration partners. We're testing it out here and there. But it's something like we need to get better at. I see a lot of potential of good co-selling opportunities. I think it's just like making sure it's clear for the AE, because at the beginning, when it was just like me and Jessica on our team, we'd look at Crossbeam and we'd say, oh, this is a good potential company we can introduce our AE to. But the AEs were so hesitant to spend time speaking with other AEs at our partner company. And so I
Yeah.
think that's a process that we really need to like nail down in order for it
Sure.
to be successful. But yeah, I wish we would have done this, years ago.
Well, look, they say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today, right? So you're still fine. And as a side note, we can talk offline. Like I am a super user of Crossbeam, so I'm happy to just run like a free workshop for the team and just say, hey, look, here's how the best teams are using this. Take it or leave it if you want to apply that to your team.
I would love that. Thank you.
Amazing, cool. We're promoting all the vendors today. I love this. Granola, you get a call out. It's like the Oprah Winfrey me. You get a call out. You get a call out. Love that. I love it. Cool. All right. So let's get deeper now into the partner program builds, talking about multiple partnership motions. So today you've got affiliates, agencies, tech partners, startup ecosystem partnerships. At a high level, let's start there. How do these models fundamentally differ in how they operate day to day? Like speaking like, okay, do you have assigned partner managers for each of these? How do you think about resourcing them? How do you think about scaling? Just any direction you want to take us into. Like most people can understand what it looks like to build a single partner channel type, but very few people actually have experience kind of helping lead the development of multiple partner motions. So just super high level, what does the day-to-day, week-to-week operations look like for you, Jennifer Rima?
Yeah. So I do have to share, like, I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast is that when I started, I was under RevOps. We moved around a lot, and I know this is a sentiment across many partnership folks. Yeah. It's like, where do we fit in an organization? And so we were under RevOps, and then we moved to marketing. We moved back to RevOps, and then we moved to growth. And our growth org, like we had people who were experts in the affiliate program. And so the affiliate program fit really nicely there because the affiliate program, as I mentioned, you're onboarding bloggers, publishers who are writing content, and they share their referral link and they're driving traffic to your website. And then those customers convert through like the self-serve motion. That's very much what growth focuses on is, how can we get self-serve traffic? The other program that is kind of similar is Startup Ecosystem. Startup Ecosystem is targeted towards these startups, small businesses, and Apollo, our bread and butter, really are these small businesses. And so we would partner with these venture capitalist accelerators who would promote Apollo to their portfolio companies, and they would get a discount on Apollo. They would just self-serve purchase Apollo, and they'd get their discount.
Yep.
That fits really well under marketing. It's like, how can we partner with Y Combinator, Sequoia, all these big companies,
Sure.
Well, in the startup ecosystem. And so then we hired a CRO. His name's Adam, and he leads all things revenue. And so when I joined his team, the affiliate program and the startup program stayed within the marketing org. And so today, my team is overseeing technology and agency. So we're just focusing on these two programs.
Got it.
And the technology, obviously, integrations, whether they're Apollo builds. Apollo has an open API. So we get a ton of platforms building to Apollo's API, and those are partner built integrations. And then obviously the agency program is where we partner with RevOps agencies, individual consultants, marketing agencies, who have the one-on-one relationship with their clients, and they're sending a lot of really good opportunities over to our sales team. So I wanted to give that context. I know it took a while to answer it, but that helps frame why they differ than one another. And then to your question of hiring and like knowing where to fit headcount, I would say I'm a generalist and specialist, both, but definitely I wanted to hire people who were really great at the affiliate program, really good at running with startups, agencies, and technology. And so that was pretty easy to build my org structure of like, how could we get somebody who would manage programs? And so that's what we did. And I have Jessica, who leads our technology program, technical, and then a guy named Vince, who's leading our agency program. He came from an agency, has a ton of really good experience there. So, and then they get to build out their team. So that's like the org structure. And that's what I would recommend, is just like hire someone who is an expert in that program.
I totally agree with that. I've made the mistake of not doing that. I think I've hired some like early stage folks who are a little bit too generalist, and it's like at that stage, they're not experienced enough to truly be a generalist. So you need to really hire people for like, to fit a specific role. So I think that's good advice. Now we're going to like keep going and deeper and deeper. And we're going to talk about building a partnerships culture internally. I think you've had a lot of great commentary on that. And I love how you show up, with your LinkedIn post, showing pictures of the team, et cetera, et cetera. I think it shows the type of leader you are. So just going back early on, how did you go about getting sales, product, and leadership genuinely bought into partnerships as a real revenue motion, not just a side experiment? Someone who has built it from 0 to 1, you have firsthand experience of like, hey, look, in the early days, like you're not a priority, right? Like, sales is getting all the credit, marketing's getting all the credit. Maybe you have a really strong cross-sell, upsell motion. So account management's getting a lot of love and shine. So you got to like really earn your way, right? And build that trust, build relationships across the rest of the departmental leaders. So just curious, like TLDR, like how did that go for you, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like educating internally. I was like, any opportunity I could get to speak at an all hands and talk about what we're doing. I think I had a very similar talk track every single all hands of just like, let me reiterate what our partner programs are, so that, because a lot of people didn't know, partnerships. And so constantly like your squeaky wheel of just saying the same thing. This is what we're trying to achieve. These are the types of partners we want to work with. So I was always like, raising my hand to speak at all hands, showing the progress that we're making. Like showing the revenue growth was really cool. Our RevOps team built this really cool report, and you could see just the growth. And I was like constantly showing that this is the growth we're seeing. And I think, then when sales specifically saw some of the opportunities coming in, they were like, oh, wow, these are, great opportunities. They're closing faster. Partners are doing a lot of the work. And so I think that spoke for itself. But yeah, any opportunity I had to attend meetings and educate, and just like creating a lot of good documentation, like a partnerships wiki of these are our partner programs. These are who we want to work with. And just building relationships internally. Like I was, if someone on sales closed a deal, I was always trying to like congratulate them. And I think that goes a long way. And I was always willing to help, and people appreciated that. So education internally is everything.
Yeah, that was a great masterclass. Ton of value in there. One thing I loved is like just like investing early, showing up, being loud, over communicating wins, not in like an obnoxious, douchey way of like, oh, look what we did. But it's like, look, like you do need to be like, seriously, like you do. I teach this all the time in my community. especially for the ICs, like you need to promote yourself, right? Like, especially if you work in mid to large size orgs, like 500 to 1,000 plus employees, like no one wakes up thinking, hey, I wonder how Jennifer is performing today other than your boss. Like you need to promote yourself. So I think that's one key takeaway. But the other one that's firmly my love language is documentation, right? Coming from a PhD background, like I had to learn how to document very, very carefully. But one of my favorite phrases is, what gets measured gets managed, sure, but that's incomplete without what gets documented gets done. So I know your Slack wiki and all this stuff. I can't stress how important documentation is, which I think is key. So the final question on this segment is, what's the biggest internal friction point that you think every partnership leader should be prepared to navigate? Right. So you talked about some of the positive things in that last segment, but like if you can remember, like, ooh, like that was a painful stretch. And for me, just to give you an example, in my last head of global partnerships job, we were quickly producing some good results, but I wasn't investing enough in building like true relationships with all my other cross-functional leaders. And we quickly were building this reputation of asking for more than we were giving back, even though we were helping sales close deals, even though we were helping customers avoid churn because we were delivering integrations. It was just how I was approaching things was rubbing people the wrong way a little bit. So that was an internal friction I had to overcome, candidly. So I'm just curious if you can think of any internal friction that a general partnership leader can expect to face going from 0 to 1.
Yeah, I think like it was a blessing that we were able to show revenue growth so quickly. But I think, something we face today is, why are we not getting more? And I talk to so many people in partnerships and they're like, yeah, our CEO is expecting that partnerships drives 20% of revenue. Like it's really hard. And even today, like there's a point where you kind of like, you're stagnated. And, I think it's just like it's like great that you're seeing growth, but then there's only so much growth that you can get to in such a short amount of time. And I think that's something that we struggle with. It's like, oh, well, why are we not getting this sooner? And I think it goes back to, well, we actually need to build these long-term relationships first before we start asking for so much. And that's something we struggle with, and I know it's common for many other people. So I would say that. And then also, one of the things we struggle with is Apollo is, this all-in-one platform. So a lot of companies who are wanting to consolidate, they, love Apollo because we have a dialer, we have conversation intelligence, we have data. I think something that's hard is we also have a lot of frenemies. We partner with a lot of companies who specialize, like their point solutions in something Apollo has part of our own product. And so it's like the friction with, product of like, oh, well, are we actually going to develop this functionality? Because we have a lot of partners who specialize in this. So I would say that's the second biggest friction point of just like, do we actually want to have a solid ecosystem of partners, or are we just trying to build everything ourselves? I think the way we've managed it with our partners is, well, you're focusing on larger enterprise, like Apollo's not there yet,
Right.
Some customers want a really deep solution, and so they would prefer to use your tool. So I would say the first one is like just revenue expectations of what could actually be delivered. And then the second is just like friction with product on roadmap and how we're competing.
That's a good one. Those are two very real ones that I've personally lived. The latter one is very tactical. I've talked a lot with Maddie Abrams on your team, who's fantastic on the tech partner side. Shout out to her, overall excellence award winner from our 25.7 batch. She's fantastic. And she, just to be clear, like she was very candid about that exact thing. She's like, hey, look, like I'm trying to balance two things. I'm trying to make sure that I'm meeting, what the company is communicating down in terms of like, hey, what our product priorities are. But I also have these relationships I have to maintain. I can't mislead them. So it's like, how do you find that winnable white space where like you as a company have your own ICP, your partners have their own ICP, and like, what's that middle overlap? And sometimes it shrinks, right? Sometimes you go from like zero competitive overlap. Sometimes it shrinks a bit because there is a bit more, but as long as there's enough winnable white space, it's worth the squeeze. And so it's important to have those conversations really often.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt.
Shout out to Maddie. Cool. Last question for you. Just to wrap up here, as we always end by looking forward, talking about the next era of partnerships, right? So AI is already reshaping how sales and marketing and product work in a huge way. right? I'm curious, the last question, how do you see it reshaping partnerships specifically? And feel free to take this in any direction you like.
Yeah, I mean, Apollo, like one of our values is we're being AI native. So, we get a stipend to use different AI tools. I have to admit, like, I think I'm pretty basic from Granola to ChatGPT. And also, I do have to say, like, PartnerStack has a lot of AI components. I think definitely like where AI can be super helpful is recruitment, recruitment of
Yeah,
new partners.
definitely.
Um, we just started doing a lot of outbound heavily to recruit new partners, leveraging PartnerStack. They have like a recruitment tool and it's all based on AI. Like that has been great. I think how AI will have a huge impact on partnerships, just helping automate tedious tasks.
Yeah.
For me, I mentioned it like when I'm on a call and I need to create a one-page proposal, I use Granola. I potentially put the transcript in ChatGPT and say like build a one-pager for me, and it's spot on and it saves so much time. So I think just like getting in the habit of leveraging AI when it could really help save you a lot of time. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of
I
my
see.
my motive for it. I don't have any other recommendations because I'm not like the biggest AI user, but I do
No,
use
no,
it on day to day.
no, that's great. I think that's a really useful use case. And talking to so many partner managers, like they're all under the squeeze of time. Like everyone's drowning. You think you have a plan going into a week, and then by like mid afternoon on Monday, you already got punched in the face. You're like, okay, I'm in reactive mode the rest of the week. So like the difference between feeling like you're somewhat in control of your time versus getting your ass kicked is not as big a gap as you might think. And that's where I think AI is really this like great kind of like antidote where it's like, hey, if you can go 20% faster because of AI, you go from like being overwhelmed to like feeling slightly in control. And that is a huge difference on productivity, your Sunday scaries, your imposter syndrome. I think that's a key takeaway from Jennifer is like get your feet wet, see what you can automate or at least go faster with. And it could be the difference between a terrible week and a pretty good week. So I
Well
think that's
said.
a good way to wrap
I like
up. Cool. Well, look, this was seriously awesome. I was so fired up for this. This was even more fun than I could even imagine. Jennifer, thank you for being so open and tactical. I can't wait to get this episode live, and good luck launching your boutique hotel. I'll certainly
that.
be the first to. I'll be the first to check in.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you to all of our listeners. This was so fun and the hour flew by. So excited to do it again soon when I do have the boutique hotel. You're holding me to it, Chris. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time. Thanks so much.
Okay.